many of you went into entrepreneurship because you wanted to be independent? You wanted to be authentic. You wanted to be able to make your own hours. Maybe you were forced into being an entrepreneur. I don't know. Did you know that you were going to have to hustle so much? Did you know that you would have to have so many revenue streams to massively monetize? These are things that people don't know when they get into business. But I learned this lesson way back in 1987, the summer of 1987, when I was 18 years old. I had just finished my first year of college in fashion design school, and I had tasted independence and freedom because I was away from home and I was living in the big city of Atlanta. And during that summer, my parents wanted me to come back home, and I was like, no way. I had tasted freedom. And they said, okay, well, if you're going to stay in Atlanta, we will pay your rent, but that is it. You have to take care of yourself. Okay, well, I had a little bit of money in the bank, but you know what? I figured I can get a job. But before I went and looked for one, I decided I'm going to give myself a mohawk. It was freshly shaved on the side, and it was bright green, and it stuck up. I know it's hard to believe that I had a green mohawk, right? Shocking, right? I thought I'm looking good. I'm going to go to the mall. I'm going to apply for jobs. Every place I went to, I filled out an application, and I could hear like the manager snickering as I walked out, and she'd be like ripping up my application and chucking it into the waste paper basket. I went all over that mall and could not get a job. What was I going to do? I did what any resourceful punk rocker would do. I panhandled. Now, I got to tell you, I did have a little bit of experience with this because during my school year, my mom was cheap. She did not send me too much money. So I wanted to go out to lunch with my friends. So I would just like run around school and be like, hey, you got a nickel? You got a quarter? And I'm trying to go to lunch with my friends. So I knew I was good at it. Okay. When I decided I'm going to panhandle, I was not going to be like the schmucky punk rockers that were sitting on the sidewalk with their hands out. No way. I was going to do it my way. I was going to be honest, positive, friendly, and I was going to go where the action was. This was the 80s. It was the shopping mall. Yes, the very place that I could not get a job, I suddenly was massively monetizing panhandling. I found my niche. Surprisingly, it was the very rich girls with the Benetton bags and the designer jeans. They were not shopping at Claire's. No, these were Tiffany girls. And when I'd walk up to them with my green mohawk, they had never seen anything like this. This was the mid 80s. Green hair dye was hard to come by back then, and they weren't going to the stores that was selling it. I found my niche. I also discovered different revenue streams. My other revenue stream was the focal point of every shopping mall, the fountain. Yes, that was revenue streams to revenue fountain. I would sit there when the security guards weren't around, and I'd fish down in there and pull up a whole bunch of coins. These people already got their wish. No one's using these coins. They're just sitting there. I have no idea. What is the mall people going to keep it? No way. So I put it in my pocket. I found that going out to the suburbs was even more monetizable to those shopping malls, and they had a better fountain. I also found some other revenue streams. Remember telephone booths? Ding, ding, ding. And then vending machines. There's a lot of money left in those things. Then I would also go to concerts. Back home, I had gotten these jelly bracelets. They look like barbed wire and they were silver. I got them at a toy store for a nickel a piece. So I'd go to these shows and I'd have on my leather jacket, and I'd be asking everybody in line, like, hey, you got $1.50 so I can get into the show? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. Be putting the coins in my pockets. And then I'd get up to the front, ready to pay to get in. And the bouncer would see my bracelets and be like, whoa, I've never seen that before. He's like, can I have one of those? And I'm like, you let me in the show for free? I give you that? Sure. Oh my God, look at the gross margin on that. From a nickel bracelet, I got into the show and I had a bunch of coins in my pocket. My leather jacket was always so full of coins that it broke through the lining, and I had coins in the back of my jacket. I was like, why is my jacket so heavy? Oh, I got a bunch of coins back there. I discovered that I could massively monetize through this because I was being authentic. I'd found my brand. I was the brand. I was selling me. I was authentic. I was massively monetizing. I had revenue streams and I found my niche. Well, the summer was over and my bank account was full. I had made money. And you know what? When I was at the mall doing my thing, I was seeing those people that were working at the mall. They'd go take their smoking breaks or whatever in their $3.25 job. And I had money in my pockets. And you know what I did on my break? I went to the movies. That fall, I kind of had to give up because I was back in school. And I also discovered that there was a place that would hire weirdos. Telemarketing. Yes, telemarketing. I got a job selling theater tickets. There was a local theater, very nice theater in Atlanta. So I went for my first day on the job and I look over and there's like the stoners over there and the dweebs over there and a dungeon master from D&D over there. And my boss greeted me. He had those Jeffrey Dahmer glasses and the balding head with a really long ponytail, like he's holding on to the dream. His tie that he always had as part of his ensemble that had Daffy Duck and Elmer Fudd. And he's like, I'm going to train you today. Okay, this is my first day on the job. So he's all ready to train me, sits me down at a telephone. They have the scripts and all that kind of stuff they put down there. So he's hovering over me to see how I'm going to do. And he's ready to give me all the pointers that I'll need. Pick up the phone, dial it. And in my first phone call, I get Frances Schwartz. She's a granny of 5. And I sell her season tickets for her entire family. Now, my boss is looking at me in shock. I hang up the phone and he runs over to this giant bell on the wall. The ding, 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 ding. Everybody's looking. All the dweebs, all the nerds, the Star Trek fans are all looking at me. My boss says, stand up. I'm like, okay. He takes my arm and puts it up victoriously like Rocky. And he looks at me and he says, hey, kid, how did you learn to sell like that? And I said, I guess I picked up that skill over the summer. I want you guys to think about how you can massively monetize what you're doing. How can you find revenue streams to increase your profits? How can you use yourself authentically, build your brand around yourself, and discover the freedom that you wanted? We got to make money. It's got to come in, right? Now, if a kid 18 years old with a green mohawk can do it, you guys can too. Just go out there and be yourself. And then the cash flow will come in. One last thing. Now, you're probably wondering, she's a CPA and she was a panhandler. Since that job at 19 years old, I turned 19 at that point, I have been a tax-paying citizen. I am a very honest and ethical person, but I did have some panhandling in my past. Thank you.
Bing, bing, bing. Thank you, Heather. Yay. That was really fun. And I know that we're not encouraging anybody to panhandle as revenue stream. It is a great example for entrepreneurship, and you have definitely a high attraction factor. Bing, bing, bing. Where in your business do you see that you can shine the spotlight for more cash flow bliss, more massive monetization bliss, more revenue in the door bliss? The more cash flow, the more you are blissing. Thank you, Heather. Bing, bing, bing.